It's just hours now until Parliament's lower house approves Julia Gillard's clean energy tax legislation after clearing the all-important second reading stage earlier this evening. But debates continued well into the night as politicians on both sides make their final arguments. Political correspondent Tom Iggulden has been watching the day unfold in Canberra.
The vote's in.
The result of the division is aye 74, no 73. The question is therefore resolved in the affirmative. Order.
But the political manoeuvring's only just begun. Tony Abbott can't stop the carbon tax, so he's moving an amendment to delay it.
I am giving members opposite the chance to turn a lie into a truth, to make honest politicians of the Prime Minister and to make honest politicians of themselves by deferring the actual proclamation of this carbon tax until after the next election.
The amendment's also unlikely to pass, but he's using every opportunity to tarnish the tax before it's written into law.
It is a contemptible thing for a government to say one thing before an election to win votes and do the opposite after the election to stay in power.
But the Prime Minister says tomorrow's final vote is a test for opposition MPs.
Whether they are on the side of history, whether they are on the side of action, whether they are on the side of change, or whether they were content to stand against and watch the world change while Australia stayed the same.
19 bills comprise the carbon tax package.
Yes, but I've still got to read the titles.
The $300 million compensation plan for the steel industry is being voted on separately.
Aye 75, no 72.
After the Greens prevaricated on whether to support insulating steelmakers from the carbon tax. Now they say they will.
But we are going to move a second reading amendment in the Senate, which calls on the government to take into account the Green Jobs Plan.
With the package now sure to pass in full, debate is intensifying.
So I say to members opposite, you've got about 18 hours left to stand up for your electorate.
We in the votes today and tomorrow will be supporting the jobs of steel workers. The Leader of the Opposition will sit in that chair and vote against their jobs.
Even the parliamentary lawns are fair ground for closing arguments. Supporting evidence is being sought wherever it can be found.
And David Pocock, Australian Wallaby, man of the match, last weekend, is saying we need good old Aussie leadership.
Former Liberal leaders also lent their pens to the campaign. Julia Gillard says Tony Abbott once supported carbon pricing too.
His so-called promise to repeal a price on carbon is just nonsense. He won't do that because more than half of his political party supports putting a price on carbon.
One who certainly does is Malcolm Turnbull, who was not among the 120 MPs who spoke during the 35 hours of debate heard in the House.
Who is the only frontbencher on the other side who has not contributed to this debate.
The government's also trying to win a symbolic victory in the lower house this week by passing its Malaysia solution legislation. To do so, it might have to strike a deal that means a last-minute change to the carbon tax. WA Nationals crossbencher Tony Crooks proposed removing changes to the diesel fuel rebate as part of the carbon tax package, and the government's all ears.
We understand the concerns that he is raising and recognise, of course, that he's representing the concerns that would have been raised with him by people within his electorate.
Mr Crooks says his vote on the Malaysia solution legislation is still up for grabs.
I don't think my credibility is at issue here, thanks. I'm weighing up all of the information that I can get from both sides of this argument, and I'll make my decision in my time.
He's got until next Thursday at the latest. Tom Iggulden, Lateline.